Yo, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Monday Overreaction Show on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson. This show brought to you by RogueShop.com. Texas is home for legal CBD, THC, and more. Go to the website, have some fun, just surf around a little bit. Use the promo code Orangebloods when you're tempted to sample the services and let the good times roll. We are doing today's Monday Overreaction Show, as we do every single Monday during the football season, following Steve Sarkeesian's press conference with the local media, all media, I guess. Anwar, anything? I can't wait to do today's show. I think it's going to be a fun show. I think there's a lot to talk about when you are covering a team, playing for important things, getting ready to go into big games. Anything from today's press conference jump out at you at all?
Well, the first thing I will say that I will say semi jumped out, nothing major, but when he was asked for Ryan Watt's injury update, he did that thing where he said, like, yeah, he was on the field today, but that's about it. So, there's the wordplay on that one, which is, kind of funny. Like him on the field and him playing and participating in practice are two different things. So we'll see what that one kind of looks like. By the way, props to Kermit Wade for being first. Outside of that, was not what we're seeing really on these Mondays catch is that there's nothing like truly sexy that's coming out of it. Quinn's going to play, is going to play, like kind of go from there. It's kind of just kind of straight laced answers and kind of go from there. I mean, I think I kind of tipped on the big theme that I think other people ended up following up on, which is the road game, and we'll get into that. But this team, as they start to continue to take the strides that you want them to take, one of those strides has to be learning how to win true road games, because that's only happened one time, so in the Steve Sarkeesian era. And I think he was asked about that multiple times after I asked it. But it wasn't a ton that jumped off the page for me where I was like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. Nothing to that effect. I don't know about you. I would have rather hear what you say.
It was boring again, and it's a reminder of how few 3-game winning streaks the Longhorns have had over the course of the last 8 years since you and I have been together, that it's like, oh, this is boring, because most of the press conferences, it feels like that we've covered over the course of 8 years, has so much drama from losing, and somebody going to get fired. Are you going to get fired? Like, there's always this strain. The thing that stood out to me the most was when Sarkeesian got off the podium today. He genuinely had a smile on his face. Normally it's like, okay, I'm done. I got this thing over with. And he kind of rushes off to do whatever his next thing to do on Mondays after the press conference. But he told that story about being out on the road, or being out at dinner with his wife on Saturday night, and he's watching the USC game on his phone under the table. And I think he got a real kick out of admitting that out loud. And it was a rare moment where I think he bonded with the media, because never before had he felt more human and not the head coach at the University of Texas than the idea that he was keeping up with a college football game on his wife's birthday dinner. And as he got off the podium, he had a smile on his face, all like on the Longhorn Network when you're watching the press conference.
That was because of Ed Clements, though. Because what made him smile was because Ed had asked, as soon as he walked off, he goes, "Coach, were you dropping a napkin a lot of times, to watch that game?" And then he looked back and started to smile.
So he was in a good mood. And if that happens after a game where when the team is lost, at that point, it's like, you guys in the media are soft. You don't ask tough questions. How dare you have a moment of like levity with the coach where you guys are kind of smiling and like coexisting okay together. it's a strange deal when fans go fanatical, right? And on a back end of a 3-game winning streak, 3 conference wins that includes the 49-0 win over Oklahoma, and then a fourth quarter win on Saturday against Iowa State, a team I think he has a lot of respect for. All is good in the world of Steve Sarkeesian. That was really my only takeaway today, was that things are good when this team wins games, and that sets us up nicely for a conversation for Saturday, because I think this Oklahoma State game, with all due respect to Alabama, with all due respect to Oklahoma, I think the Oklahoma State game in Stillwater is going to be the game that defines where this season goes, what the season ends up being. It's a huge game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, you're right, Catch, just because it's a kind of a double whammy, with this one, because you expect Oklahoma State to be in contention, in November, where we're talking about, like, we're scoreboard watching and we're standings watching, and you're at a point, Catch, where it's a big week. It's really a huge weekend overall, because now if you get into that tiebreaker situation, you want to be able to have one of these things. It's the same way I believe TCU plays Kansas State.
The top
this
4
upcoming
teams
weekend.
in the conference are all playing each other.
Correct. And now, like, for instance, if you're TCU and you pull off that one, now you've given yourself a huge cushion going forward, right, Catch?
You've got one foot in the door of the Big 12 championship game.
Correct, because no matter who you lose to after that point, if you're in a tiebreaker situation, you can pretty much say you've defeated everyone else. And so, because what's TCU's remaining schedule, Catch? I don't have it. I'll look it up. Do you know it offhand? That's probably a dumbass question. The TCU schedule offhand?
I do not have it memorized, Anwar. Forgive me. Do not punish me. So they got Kansas State this weekend.
Yeah.
They're at West Virginia next weekend.
Mm-hmm. Not in contention.
Then they've got TCU at home.
Wait.
I'm sorry. Then they're Texas Tech at home.
Okay.
Then they're on the road at Texas.
Contention.
Then they are at Baylor. And then they are at home against Iowa State. So their weeks off are over. They don't get a week off the rest of the season.
Okay. And of what's left, only K-State and Texas are the ones that we look at and say, Paulie, you're, fighting for something significant, in November. So
yeah, but I think anytime you go on the road in the Big 12, as Texas has already learned this season by losing at Texas Tech, the road games are at West Virginia, at Texas, and at Baylor.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, I kind of think Kansas State at home this weekend for them will be easier than probably 2 out of the Texas game will be the most difficult game they have the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. One of those games at West Virginia or at Baylor will probably turn out to be a weird, close game, because that's what happens in the Big 12. But yeah, they'll have 5 games after this weekend. If they beat Kansas State, it would be surprising at this point if TCU wouldn't end up in the Big 12 championship game. And the loser of Oklahoma State and Texas will have 2 losses. And their margin of error at that point for the loser of this game is minimal. It doesn't exist. And depending on how the tiebreaker situation ends up, you can't lose to one of the teams you may end up in a tiebreaker situation with. So that's why I think this game's the biggest game of the season. That is not to say that I think Oklahoma State is the best team on the Texas schedule or even the rest of the Texas schedule. I just think this game is the biggest. It's Texas on the road. It's Texas against a team it needs to beat if it wants to be in Dallas for the Big 12 championship game in December. And they've only played 1 true road game so far this season in Lubbock, and they lost. So this is a chance for the Texas football program against a team that they sometimes struggle against a coach that has a good record against them. They've got to win this game this weekend, and they'll have to do it in ways and in circumstances that they haven't yet proven that they can consistently do. I'm, just like I was last weekend, I'm fascinated by this team and its journey this season. And I don't know that I will be any more fascinated than I will be with them going on the road against what now will be a desperate Oklahoma State team. Oklahoma State at halftime on Saturday probably thought they had 1 foot into the championship game at the end of the season with the lead that they had over TCU. They completely blow that game. They have a bad second half, and now they're in a must-win situation against Texas. It should be one hell of a game on Saturday. I'm expecting a racetrack game, first one to 38 to 40 wins.
Yeah, just to clarify, the only reason I brought up the TCU thing was just for the tiebreaker conversation of what's left, and I didn't think they had a lot of teams left once they get past K-State that they might be in a tiebreaker situation with if they suffer like another loss or something like that. That was kind of the thing, but. That's the same thing's going to be for Texas going forward, right? It's, you beat Oklahoma State, you control the tiebreaker. Come up, you beat, that bye, you beat TCU, you control the tiebreaker, right? You want to get in that math territory. We've been there.
Kansas State the next week will be very similar, or 2 weeks away, will be
Correct.
A very similar situation. They're undefeated.
Correct.
They're going to lose a game or two along the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Texas, you need to make sure that it's against you. But, 2 losses keeps you in it, but it puts you, like I said in my column, the loser of this game, it's not a death sentence for the conference championship race, but you're probably hooked up to machines and you might be fading. You will need perfection at that point. A team's not getting in with 3 losses. 2, very possible. 3, you're done. And that's why with both of these teams having a loss in conference play, it just doesn't get much bigger this season than the stakes that are involved in this week's Oklahoma State game. It's fun to watch games and cover games where the stakes are high, and they will be high on Saturday.
I mean, they're going to be huge. And, can I just throw this out here, Catch, for everyone's purposes and sanity? One of the worst situations that you can have is having a team like a Texas team lose heading into the bye week because everybody's miserable. I mean, everybody's the players will be miserable, the fan base will be miserable. Like, you definitely want that. But this sense of being, I think it's, it's huge for all the things that you talked about, Catch, what's up, El Presidente. But, it's huge for all the things that we've talked about as far as like the magnitude of the game, the importance of the game. But, look, there's a couple of things at play here, Catch. Like, the Texas has a chance to become bowl eligible, which, you don't want to just clearly we just can't look at bowl eligibility like as the gift horse in the mouth, right? You just got to say, all right, you have a chance to get to 6, and that's important
in October as opposed to
Correct.
November, no less.
Correct. So, that portion of it's important. That's a huge step for this program. Going against an Oklahoma State team, which we know is going to be good. We saw the battle tooth and nail, obviously, with TCU. They gave up. Gave up a lead is not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say they gave up, but they gave up a lead, and had to end up losing in overtime. So probably a team that comes out a little bit more ticked off, very dialed in, very focused, going forward. And then again, there's the road game, and Texas has been great at home. Fine, great at home, but now going and get on the road and finding a way to bottle that and have some success against Power 5 program, that's going to be challenge. It's something we hadn't seen. It's not to say it can't be done, but Stillwater's a crazy place. The atmosphere is going to be crazy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be all those kind of things. And Mike Gundy's a good coach, and we know what he's going to do, those kind of things that he's going to be throwing at him. So, yeah, it's definitely, I feel like we'll say that about a lot of games going forward. But to your point, like if Texas loses this game, now you're on the outside looking in. Like right now, you're still in the championship club. Like you are there. You're there. If you lose, Now you got to go outside the club and stand back in line and hope that, you get let back in. And, sometimes club bouncers at the club aren't always nice. These guys, for whatever
Especially if you're a
reason,
dude.
they hate dudes, and they freaking they hate dudes. These guys who were like, wanted to be athletes and never got to be where they wanted to be. And all of a sudden they get a little bit of power, and that power is, I can reject you from coming into the club. And they will yield that and wield that and be an absolute dick to you. There are a few people who are in a walk of life that use that power to their advantage more than freaking bouncers. I actually think I hate bouncers now that I'm off topic. They just hate them because I'm like, dude, this is like.
Aren't you too old to care about bouncers? Though
I haven't been to a club in years.
I was gonna say, you hate bouncers, but it's off of this irrational. Actually, it's rational. It's off of this rational feeling from probably 10 years ago.
Easily. Yes. Like, yo, dude, who are you? Who are you to say, oh, man, I don't like what you wear. You can't come in here. Come on, man.
Maybe the bouncers in 2022, right? Because this is the era of sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the bouncers aren't like that anymore.
So there's young people who are watching this thing.
Yes.
They can probably tell us, but
are bouncers dicks in 2022? Tell us in the chat. I'm fascinated. Under the category of some things change and some things will always be the same.
Yeah.
Are bouncers the same in 2022 in the sense that they're power-driven, ego-hungry human beings who take out their aggression on people waiting in line to get into their club?
By the way, can I tell you how I always just finally learn how to deal with them? $20 handshake. Just walk up, $20 handshake, and I was always good at that point. But I still can't stand those guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so totally off topic.
Real quick, Eric Torres is right in the super chat. Mm-hmm. What does Vegas know that the rest of us don't know? The game opened up at Texas minus 2.5. Texas now favored by basically a touchdown. All the money's coming in on Texas. Very scary. Eric Torres. With the elephant in the room question, I think the instinct is that something's wrong with Spencer Sanders. We know that he has a shoulder issue that he's been dealing with. I didn't think it was something that prohibited him from being a good player on Saturday against TCU. I didn't think that was the difference in the game. Maybe something is happening behind the scenes. I'll be honest, Eric. I hate to just get this out of the way. 5 days before the game, I'm probably not picking Texas to win this weekend.
Oh.
So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what needs to happen to get Texas over the hump. But Texas is going on the road against an Oklahoma State team they'll be the hurt animal this week. I can't believe we didn't get a hurt animal question.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, when a team loses, it's because they did it for Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma got beat up by TCU. You're going to get their best shot. They're a wounded animal. Wounded animals are dangerous. Nobody said that this week, but it is the position that Oklahoma State is in. And until Texas wins on the road, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt. This week will be a stubborn prediction week for me. I know that Texas is the better team. I know that Quinn Ewers is better than Spencer Sanders. But until Texas goes on the road and plays well and closes the deal, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt right now. Now, maybe I'll change my mind, but on Monday, I'm sorry, Eric, I feel like this is a game where I will probably pick against Texas.
And I'm supposed to follow that? I mean, listen, if you want to say, hey, prove it to me, show it to me, all those kind of things, that's 100% fair catch. I can't necessarily dispute that. To your point, hey, they did go on the road and, it definitely was been different and the struggle, obviously, against Tech, that did occur. we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be Quinn's road test and first true road test now. And look, Sarkeesian admitted that Quinn looked human-like at times, last week, or if I say last week, a few days ago, quite honest with you. I know Jay's saying Spencer Sanders is injured, Catch. I think that's what Catch just said. That's why he referred to the line, Jay. And so I don't think that's not something that he doesn't know. That's exactly what he was referring to. I don't want to speak for you, Catch, but it seemed like that's exactly.
Welcome to the show, Jay. Andrew's like, why is Catch a hater? It's almost like you guys weren't talking about this team being 6-6 after the game in Lubbock a month ago. Like 3-game winning streak, and you guys forget the issues that I think this team still has to clear. There are still hurdles in front of this team. Andrew, I'm not being a hater. I'm just not. Here's the thing, Anwar, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So if I just pick Texas this week and Oklahoma State wins the game, we're a bunch of homers. If I pick Texas and, or if I pick Oklahoma State and Texas wins, then it's like, you didn't believe. And it's like, well, no, let's have some middle ground and some room to breathe the discussion here. This is a Texas team that under Steve Sarkeesian has been abysmal as true road games go. And literally the only one they've played so far this season without Quinn Ewers. Although I don't know how much in my head, I don't know how much I think he changes that game. Texas lost. Now, what I think about this game, Anwar, truly, is that I think it's a 50-50 game. I think this will be very similar to what we saw last weekend in that the team that has the ball last may be the team that wins the game unless one of these two teams has a defense like Texas did on Saturday that steps up and makes a big play in the critical moment. But we all can't pretend that we didn't just watch a game on Saturday at DKR where with 2 minutes to go in the game, everybody's sphincters were like this. Iowa State was driving. They are a drop pass away from their best player from potentially taking the lead and putting – now, it's very possible that Texas would have just gone down the field and scored. Possible, but we can't say certain. And it took a monumental best play of the season from Anthony Cook to seal this game. That was at home against a team that doesn't have a win yet in the Big 12. So if you're asking me how could you possibly think such a thing? Because I have eyeballs and I use my brain occasionally. And my brain today, while I'm using it, is just telling me this is a game that's just a total coin flip from my perspective. And until Texas wins one of these on the road, it's hard to defiantly say Texas is absolutely going to win. I sure hope they do. Because Anwar is right. The next 2 weeks will suck. Like I'm going to San Francisco during that off weekend. I want to have a good time, a little vacation with my family. I don't want to have to monitor the message boards and, feel the strain for 2 weeks that comes after a Texas loss. But it is a possibility. Mention
this, Catch. Texas sits at 5-2, right?
Yeah.
What's the best win? What's the best win so far for this team?
UTSA.
Wow.
You know why? Because UTSA has Frank Harris, and Frank Harris is a legitimately good quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I thought, they end up winning that game fairly convincingly. I mean, yeah, it was a game deep into the third quarter, but by the fourth quarter, everybody got to play. And UTSA is pretty good. Like I would rate TCU probably ahead of Iowa State. I think UTSA and Oklahoma without a quarterback, that's a win for UTSA because I don't think OU could score enough points to keep up with UTSA. Because I do think UTSA would hang 30 on Oklahoma. Oklahoma with Dylan Gabriel, that never happened. So I don't know. So at this point, yeah, the best win's still UTSA. That will change on Saturday, though, should they beat Oklahoma State. There was no doubt about it. Winning in Stillwater against a team that really wasn't punished for losing on Saturday to TCU. They're still 11th in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They win. They're kind of back in the top 10. Somebody will lose on Saturday to open up the door for a winning Oklahoma State team to be right back in the top 10. So, yeah, this one would be a big win.
All right, you got a question for yourself on the screen. How much better?
I don't think Oklahoma State is better than Texas. I think Texas is going on the road. How much better do you think OSU is compared to us? So he's asking me how much better I think Oklahoma State is to Texas. I don't think Oklahoma State is better.
But you said you're going to predict them to win.
I am. But the better team at home doesn't always – or the better team on the road doesn't always win. I saw Tampa Bay in the NFL yesterday go on the road to a Pittsburgh team that was playing with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. And I saw multiple teams, good teams in the NFL yesterday, lose because when you go on the road, it's a different animal. And Texas on the road has been a team that doesn't play anywhere near up to their level as they do at home. So if I pick Oklahoma State on Saturday, it's because it's more about Texas and their inability to play at a high level on the road. They, more times than not, haven't played at average levels on the road. It took a below average performance against Texas Tech to lose that game. It took your best player fumbling in overtime. It took your defense allowing a player that lost his job to the third string quarterback a couple of weeks later to find yourself into a position. Oklahoma State is a better version of Texas Tech. So when we talk about how much better do I think Oklahoma State is compared to us, Jay, you're asking the wrong question. The question should be, how much better do you think Oklahoma State is compared to Texas Tech? And I think they are, without question for me, at least a layer above Texas Tech. Now, the good news is, Anwar, Oklahoma State's awful on defense. Mm-hmm. So Texas should score between 35 and 40 points. However, Oklahoma State is a better version than Texas Tech on offense by a lot. Now, if Spencer Sanders were to miss the game or to get knocked out from the game, then all bets are off. But if Spencer Sanders is at 75, 80%, and he's playing in this game, he's exactly the type of player that gives Texas problems. We're talking about a dual threat quarterback that is legitimately a threat with his feet, way more than the Iowa State kid was this weekend when Texas really seemed to be timid with its approach on defense and going after him. Texas does not like to bring pressure against quarterbacks that can run. And Sanders is one of those guys. So on paper, for me, this is one of these games where Texas can also give up 35 to 40 points on defense. They haven't been that type of team most of the season. The one time they were, it was on the road against a team not as good as this one.
Yeah, I'm looking up Spencer's, trying to see what his rushing yards are this season. It looks like he's rushed for 309 yards and 8 touchdowns catch. So, and that's going to be combining him with, from a passing percentage, where am I right now? That percentage. So 1,639 yards and 13 touchdowns. So, rounding up, you're somewhere around here. We're basically talking about 2,000 yards of offense that, combined with, 21 touchdowns from him. So yeah, I mean, it's a problem. He's a guy that look, I think we saw in the Baylor game, the championship game last year, that he will give you some opportunities, and you better be ready. It's kind of like when they were playing against Texas, was playing against Oklahoma, and they kept saying, okay, Oklahoma's running the Wildcat, they're running Wildcat, but eventually they're going to pass. And when they pass, you've got to be ready. I think Spencer Sanders, he's a guy that you got to be ready for. But to your point of him being at home, him being athletic, him healthy, yes, he definitely is going to be a problem. Now, I think the benefit for Texas is being able to have a quarterback in Quinn Ewers that, seemingly will be able to keep up, and keep this offense on the field and not have, prolonged drives, or, by Texas Tech, because this offense couldn't move. So, I do think there could be some complementary football, and I think that's what Sarkeesian even talked about today, was the need for complementary football. But with you, is it going to be tough? For sure. I just think we get to the super chat in a second. There's a couple of things. Yes, they're going to be good, but this defense is going to be tested. We clearly know this defense needs Ryan Watts back in the worst way, because without him, it's going to be a little bit challenging. But the defense has played well overall. And I probably will predict I will probably win because of the defense, but I'm not ignorant to the fact of it's going to be a challenge on the road.
It feels, Sark talked today in the press conference. He outlined running the ball well, execution, not turning the ball over. He talked about the things that add up to a win on Saturday against Iowa State. Not going to be shocked if that's what it comes down to again on Saturday in Stillwater. Which of these teams turns the ball over? Texas won the turnover battle 2-0 on Saturday, but could have just as easily have had a couple themselves. Ewers has a pass dropped in the end zone, which could have gone as a pass interference. Like, I would stress that there were a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas on that play. Both teams could claim, but that ball should have been intercepted. He got away with whatever that behind this lateral spike in the direction of his running back. I know what he was trying to do, but it still happened. Yes. And those things went their way on Saturday in a game that they win by, one score. Texas had some plays go their way. I guarantee you Iowa State today is in Ames, and they're like, look, had an interception, didn't come away with it. Ewers tried to gift us a fumble. We didn't come away with the scramble play. Yeah. We had the 2 turnovers, one of which – hundredths of a second, not tenths, maybe like 200ths of a second, make that the difference between a live fumble and his knee down by contact. Their best player for the second week in a row drops a pass where he's behind the secondary, should have been a walk-in touchdown. I tried to tell people last week when there were Texas fans who were talking about, we're just going to beat everybody by 2 scores the rest of the season. And I was like, no. There are going to be 50-50 games the rest of the way. And that's what Saturday was. I mean, while we want to give the Texas and we will give the Texas defense credit for turning Iowa State over in key situations, it really was the difference in the game. The Jalen Ford interception in the end zone and the Anthony Cook forced fumble. Without those 2 plays, dare I say, Texas loses that game. But very thin margins determine the outcomes of college football games week in and week out. And I think that I'm not definitively saying that Oklahoma State beats Texas on Saturday. I don't believe that at all. Like I said, I think Texas is the better team. But they've got to do something that they really haven't done well since Steve Sarkeesian has been in Austin. And the coin flip's got to go their way on Saturday. And in reality, when we're talking about what I think is a true coin flip game that will come down to probably the last possession, you're just as easy to be wrong as you are to be right. You're just as easy to be right as you are to be wrong. It's going to be that kind of a game. Anybody that sits here and feels like definitively they know what's going to happen, I think is which neither one of us is doing. I think we both have kind of early on tipped who we think is going to win the game. But I don't think either one of us thinks that this thing's going to be a runaway or that it's not going to be highly competitive. So, it's just
this would be the week for your overtime prediction. This would be the week I would say for that, something like that. I could totally see one team being ahead, and with a couple of minutes left, and then the other team driving down, scoring, and us go into overtime.
Anytime a game goes into, we start talking about anytime an actual overtime game occurs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, I go into it with zero expectations of what happens next.
Correct.
Because at that point, you're literally one Bijan Robinson fumble away from going, how did that just happen?
Yes.
So, look, I want Texas to win on Saturday. Believe me. I would look forward to doing a post-game show on Saturday night where Anwar and I get to talk about how monumental that win would be. I'm just saying that if I'm being 100% honest, this is a game that, like Texas Tech, which I spent the entire summer warning people, that game could be a little tricky. Don't completely write that as a W. Just FYI, I have viewed this game in Stillwater the same way, and I actually think Texas would be in a better position to win this game had Oklahoma State beaten TCU on Saturday, because I think you might legitimately wonder if Oklahoma State would be ripe for a letdown performance. Instead, they lost, and I think they will – that's a team that expects to be in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah. That's a team that played in the Big 12 championship game a season ago. That's a team with a senior at quarterback. They're playing at home. They have to win, and I think they will understand the stakes. What I don't know is this a Texas team that goes into that game on Saturday, do they fully understand the stakes? I don't know that they did against Texas Tech earlier this season when they went on the road, because that game left them in a precarious position. If Texas is undefeated, if Texas beats Texas Tech in Lubbock, they go into this weekend with a get-out-of-jail card. They can actually afford to lose to Oklahoma State, and it's not an end-of-the-world kind of moment for the team. But you lose that game, and you put yourself into a position where your get-out-of-jail cards are minuscule the rest of the season. And they need to know that. There needs to be a level of urgency that they play with that they haven't brought to true road game environments since Steve Sarkeesian has been the head coach. We're talking Arkansas. We're talking Iowa State from a season ago. We're talking about Texas Tech this season. This is a moment where, for all of the talk about how far this team has come, these are the type of games that they have not yet won. Well, I hope they do. Like I said, I hope they do on Saturday. Our lives will be better for it, but there ain't nothing anybody can tell me that's going to make me think this is anything other than a coin flip Saturday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and I can see, and then I just to see if there was any variables, I went and checked the weather catch. The high on Saturday is supposed to be 86 degrees. So just sort of,
it's almost Halloween. It's still 86 degrees. Good God. Because I watch these playoff baseball games on War, and everybody's dressed like a blizzard is on the way. And it's like, I'm going to check what the weather's – 86 and sunny.
Dude, actually, today it was rainy, so I was like, I guess I got to put on a long sleeve, but I mean, typically not. Only reason I ever have wear it just because it's freezing cold up here. So I was just trying to see if there would be, any variables or anything to that effect. But yeah, you're right, Catch. There's very few scenarios that I think you can throw at me right now where I would say unfathomable, right? If could you see? This being a close game, absolutely. Could you see it going either way? Absolutely. Could you see, one team winning by, 7 or 10? absolutely. Or 13. Like, there's no scenario where I look and I'm like, man, that's off the table. It's like, no. Everything is on the table. The being able to bottle this thing up and go, but and on the road is going to be interesting. I do think they understand the magnitude, and here's why. Catch, I found it really interesting over this season, really, right? So, they started off before the year, which is we've got to block out the outside noise, right? And then after the Bama game, then Sarkeesian starts telling everybody, the media, none of you guys believed in us. So clearly the outside noise had crept in, right? And then after Texas Tech, then Sarkeesian says, yes, you guys see the sky is falling, right? And then after OU victory, Sarkeesian says, yeah, but then now all you guys are writing about how good we are and, how tough it was in a week of practice because all you guys kept telling them how good they are. And so it's part of it's like, what would you like? Because when it's written like, the team is horrible, it's like
such a great point.
It's like, you guys always say we're so bad and you guys don't believe in us. And then we're like, man, it's so you guys are doing great. You guys are awesome. Like, you guys always want to say we're so good. And these guys got these guys believing it. It's that whole, like, I got to look for an edge kind of thing. And so whatever's written, I just got to take the opposite in order to attack on and slint my teeth into that. So I think they know, because I think they know what the stakes are, and I think they'll know what's going on and what this game really means to them going into the bye week. And I think we'll hear from Sarkeesian. He'll have some sort of admission after the game of some sorts that no matter what happens, you guys did this, and this is how we responded.
You can make a case that for every guy in that locker room, maybe other than, there's still some seniors that played in that Big 12 championship game as freshmen, maybe. Yeah, it has to be, right? Like, Comer probably played in that game. There's a few guys that would have, I'll just say this, for most of the guys in that locker room, not all of them, but most of them, this will be one of the biggest road games, maybe the biggest that they've ever played, with the highest stakes in any road game that they've played in their careers. And you could probably make the case for Steve Sarkeesian as well with regard to that statement. He's got a team that can win a Big 12 championship.
Sure.
He's got a team that can get to the Big 12 championship. Most of the teams that he's had in his career, you really couldn't say that about at this point in the seasons, whether he was at Washington or USC or Texas a year ago. And most of those seasons, we didn't get to late October and say out loud, he's got a team that can legitimately play for a conference championship. He does this year. And so this is a big game for him. And I think his attitude today and his nature, I think actually plays well. Like, I think this team needs a loose Sarkeesian this week. Because when this team plays free without their head in the clouds and when this team feels pressure, they tighten up. When this team doesn't feel pressure, and I think whether they were aware of it or not, whether it's conscious or not, the Dylan Gabriel not being in that game for Oklahoma, and I think the knowledge during the week that Oklahoma was truly wounded, I think helped Texas. I think Texas went into that game knowing we just do our thing. We're going to mop this team off the field. And you don't say that every week. You wouldn't have said that last week about Iowa State. Like, I think Sarkeesian respects the hell out of Iowa State. I think he thinks that, and he mentioned it in the press conference today, that Iowa State's a couple of plays away in the last couple of weeks from having a very different season than the one that they're having. So I think that the mental state of this team, it needs a Steve Sarkeesian that is taking its opponent serious, but also isn't tight. And the coach I saw today didn't look very tight. And I think that plays well into the hands of Texas this week in looking to have a good performance on Saturday.
Just to answer the super chat that's on the screen from El Presidente, it's interesting to see 21 personnel with Jaleel Billingsley. Everyone's got to stop with the Jaleel Billingsley thing. You got to stop with that. Like this thing is not going to happen, man. Like it's not like it's just Jatavian Sanders. Like when all things were equal before the suspension thing occurred, Jatavian Sanders had distanced himself by a mile.
And Gunnar Helm had put himself in front of him on the depth chart.
Correct. So the belief that that Billingsley thing by the end of spring, that thing was old Yeller. Like that that thing got taken out behind the shed, and that thing got shot in the head. Like
it wasn't old Yeller in the beginning of the book. It was old Yeller at the end of the book.
Correct. And look, in the beginning, that's what the Jaleel thing. Oh, he's going to come in here. He's going to do this. And the expectation that all of a sudden, as soon as Jaleel comes back, now he's going to be more involved. No, Sark made it very, very clear. He'll be back. We'll have some things for him, but it will not be at the expense of Jatavian Sanders. And I think we saw that this past Saturday. You got to give me the chart on how much he actually played. But Sark is not going to mess around this late in the season with the stakes on the line just to throw in Jaleel Billingsley. That whole thing is dead.
Yeah, man. Look, thank you, Anwar. There's no point in this entire show, and Eric, we're not jumping on you. You know we love you, but Jordan Whittington had 2 targets on Saturday. There is not enough meat on the bone to get Bijan, Roshan, Xavier, Jordan, and Jatavion enough touches. We are going to end every single week with one of those guys. We're going to go, oh, they weren't able to get – when we've said it about Bijan this season where it's like,
correct.
They really could have got Bijan some more touches. Really should have got Roshan some more touches. Really got to get Jatavion more involved in the offense. Could Billingsley get a ball thrown his way at some point in the game on Saturday? Sure. Is he likely? Like, have they been saving the 21 personnel and Jaleel Billingsley for the No, they haven't. Like, you've got a crackerjack offense right now. Like we talked about, we did a video last week where you got a first round pick or a second round pick at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And maybe a left tackle while you're at it. Like you got an offense with 5 first round picks potentially in it. I don't have high hopes that Jaleel Billingsley makes a big impact the rest of the way. Might catch a pass somewhere along the line. I just want you guys to understand where my head and probably Anwar's head is. This season will be defined by the players that have already made plays. If Jaleel Billingsley had never served an NCAA suspension, I don't think you guys would be talking about him today. Because I think we'd be 7 weeks into the season, and he might have caught 4 or 5 passes in 7 games. And I think everybody would realize, like, he is a backup component to an offense that's got a lot of mouths to feed.
Correct.
All right, rant over.
Okay, good. Let me ask you this, Catch. When we start talking about the complexity of this battle, give me Frank Harris versus Spencer Sanders. Who's the better of the two? I'm kind of curious in your mind.
Spencer Sanders at home versus Frank Harris on the road. I'll take Spencer Sanders. I think Frank Harris is probably just a flat out better thrower of the football than Spencer Sanders. I think Spencer Sanders' ability to just scare you with his feet is different. Frank Harris is a guy that can run, but I don't think he's as instinctively dangerous with the football as like if Spencer Sanders were to run for 100 yards on Saturday, I would be mildly surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be like, okay, they really utilized that, and he ripped off a couple of big runs. But he's capable of making plays with his feet like Max Duggan is. That doesn't mean that every week either one of those guys is going to have a 65-yard touchdown run, to their credit, but they're capable of that. And what it does to a defense, man, it makes them honest, and it makes them nervous, and it leaves gaps. And so what you're going to get on Saturday is a Texas team that will go into the game saying, we can't let Sanders make off-schedule plays with his feet. So at that point, they're going to depend on their front four to be the pass rush on Saturday. Yeah. And I don't know that I necessarily believe that the Texas pass rush is going to get home in a way. Look, Iowa State had a lot of success throwing the ball on Saturday, in part because Texas couldn't get the quarterback on the ground enough. Maro Ajomo was the only player on that Texas defense with a sack on Saturday. And that Iowa State quarterback was able to get into a bit of a comfort zone. I think Oklahoma State potentially has a situation where on Saturday, and it's not different than the Texas Tech game. This Texas defense has been really good at keeping teams from going off, but there have been, they played 7 games so far, and almost half of them you can point to a quarterback that they were playing against who definitely got into a rhythm and had the Texas defense reeling a little bit. I think you'll see that against Oklahoma State on Saturday. However, the fact that Texas made the big plays that they did on Saturday against Iowa State on defense gives me more hope that while they will give up yards against Oklahoma State like they did Iowa State a week ago, when push comes to shove, they might, having forced 2 turnovers in back-to-back weeks, we might see a Texas defense that's really in a position now to make the type of big plays that wash away your sins. That's what creating turnovers does.
Correct.
You can give up yards, you can struggle, but if you create the big plays and you win the games, it's the only thing anybody remembers. It's Monday, and nobody in this chat has mentioned that Iowa State, with a really bad offense, really put a lot of stress on the Texas defense for 4 quarters on Saturday. You know why? Because you got the turnovers. You make game-changing plays, and everybody can live with some bend but don't break defense. And what's ironic, Oklahoma State's defense is worse than Texas's, but they're better at creating big plays so far over the course of the season than the Texas defense has been. So this game really might come down to 2 bend but don't break defenses. Which of those defenses creates the turnovers that creates the ultimate separation on Saturday? 2 weeks ago, I would have told you Oklahoma State for sure. But since Texas has been able to create some turnovers the past couple of weeks, I think they're in a position to be that kind of unit on Saturday. And if Texas wins this game, the defense's ability to create those big plays, not stop Oklahoma State, not keep them from going up and down the field at times, not stop them from scoring some points, but ultimately stopping them from winning the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, as far as the turnover margin is concerned, I was obviously, right? I mean, let's see. I'm looking at the turnover margin right now. Oklahoma State is ranked 5th at this moment. Texas is ranked 4th. So they're kind of neck and neck as far as the turnover margin is concerned. And Texas needed those turnovers last week to really help push them closer to that. And Jalen Ford made one hell of a play. It was an incredible play. And then of course the fumble that was caused was again Jalen Ford and Anthony Cook.
He's the best linebacker in the Big 12 right now,
which is amazing. Again,
considering he didn't make a tackle in the first game of the season, it's truly exceptional.
It's beyond this world. I feel as a person who kind of took that as my underdog all off season. I feel really good about that. I'm not going to
take
lie.
a bow. I will stop the show.
Okay.
I want you to legitimately take a Jalen Ford bow.
Jalen Ford for me was like the person that's bought like $100 in some cryptocurrency, or they were just like, oh man, I'm just gonna do that. We all had like heard of this friend of a friend that like a couple of years ago bought something, Dogecoin or something like that, and next thing you know, it like took off. And you're like, what? Man, I wish I would have bought in on that. And of course, you look at it now, and now your crypto wallet is horrific, but maybe about a couple of years ago. But yeah, the Jalen Ford thing, what he's been able to do, it's crazy. We knew it's crazy about that catch. All off season, we talked about the need for more linebackers to step up, because Sarkeesian talked about the need to have some linebackers, because he
sure tried to recruit them. He tried to get them in the transfer portal.
Every single one that was moving or breathing, he was after all of them. And then the weird thing happened, Catch, was like right before the season, he started saying guys were getting healthy, and he said he felt good about the linebacker position. And we were kind of like, huh? You do? Really? Huh. Okay. And now we understand why, because Jalen Ford is really just, taken off. So leading the Big 12 in tackles and really his best game. I mean, this past game, like he's definitely, there's some Jalen Ford stock that's rising, and when you're creating turnovers the way he's doing and playing as consistently as he is, But he's gonna have to bring that on the road as well. That will have to travel. This defense will have to travel. Like that's going to be the
Jalen Ford game. Like they need him to be. I just called him the best linebacker in the Big 12 this season.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be that on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, with great talent comes great responsibility, and there's a lot of players I think on this Texas team that just need to show up. And if they play their games, Texas can win this game by multiple scores. I legitimately think that this Texas team is better than Oklahoma State. They're better on defense. They're better at quarterback. They've got better skill talent. Oklahoma State's got the better coach. No offense to Sarkeesian, but there ain't nothing that Mike Gundy hasn't seen and conquered by now for the most part. And Sarkeesian's still trying to prove that he can get to that Gundy level. But, I mean, when I look at these two teams, I think Texas is better across the board. I don't trust them to be better across the board at the same time in all areas on the road, mainly because I just haven't seen it from this group yet. But I would love to get to a point where by the end of the season, they go to Kansas and we don't have, here goes Texas on the road. Who knows? They got a couple of back-to-back games where they can put the road game narrative behind them. But they can't do it before they do it. So I know they'd love to get through this week and not have to hear, it's a road game and they suck on the road and Texas Tech. Like I know that at 5-2, they would probably like to not have to hear that. But guess what? Before this season is over, you can put that behind you. And we won't have to talk about it in 2023. Just win 2 of your 3 road games before this season is over. And it'll be like, okay, this team's at least capable on the road. We've seen this team get the dog mess kicked out of them more so than we've seen legitimately quality performances in the Steve Sarkeesian era when they go on the road. I mean, they've been closer to dog poo-poo than they've been to, like, dog food. So, I hate to use that as an analogy, but, like, seriously. And the thing is, like, they've only played 1 road game. They played 7 games this season, 1 on the road. So, and when that only 1 on the road was a loss to a very mediocre team playing its backup quarterback, who's now the 3rd-string quarterback, like I said, the benefit of the doubt is earned. Onward, real quick.
And I got something I want to throw in here.
This will be quick. This will be quick.
Okay, go ahead.
You got to take the Jalen Ford victory lap. Yes. I want to take the Christian Jones victory lap.
Okay.
I was like the only guy on the staff that was like, I think Christian Jones could actually play in the NFL, like make a roster, not be a starter, but I think he could be an okay college player. And I think he's been first team all Big 12 quality good so far this season. Iowa State's pressure off the edge in that defense has been good all season long. And yet another game went by where we're not talking about the Texas offensive tackles really having any issues at all. I feel like we've just reached a point where Kelvin Banks is kind of a borderline superstar. That's just who he is.
So effing good.
But Christian Jones has been a guy that has been dragged for so much of his career, and certainly in the last 12 months. I just want to give myself like a little miniature pat on the back for not completely giving up on that guy, because Kyle Flood has him playing at a really high level. That's it. I'm done.
Christian Jones is, first of all, let me say Kyle Flood is like a wizard of some sorts. Like,
take that, Joe Wickline.
Dude, Kyle Flood had Denzel Okafor playing at a high level at the end of last season, and most people were like, "Man, why is Denzel here?" Because it was just because of the super senior thing.
Tope.
He had yes, Tope Amati is the other one, as well. And this guy, he's a wizard, man. Like, and he has Christian Jones. Just to say, okay, let me just move you over here. And that simple adjustment plus the coaching that went along with it has made him into basically an all-conference player. Like, he is that freaking good right now. Like, look, we love Alex. And we also know, like, Alex, he doesn't mean to sometimes come across as, like, rude or sharp or anything like that. It really doesn't. But, man, Christian Jones caught a lot of strays from Alex over the last couple of years. Like, it was like, I was like, damn, bro, like, you are. And Alex is now praising this guy. So, yes, if there's an attaboy to be had for the Christian Jones thing, I will definitely have to give you an attaboy for Christian Jones, because I don't think anybody, not a one person outside of you, would have thought that he would be playing at an all-conference level. He's playing at an all-conference level. Looks like a guy that, now or something, we can say he probably gets invited to a camp at this point. Now, I'm not saying drafted. But
I think he's going to get drafted.
Potentially.
He's a massive human being. And NFL, your John Gruden line always reigns true with a guy like Christian Jones. It is hard to find mammoth human beings who can play a lick of football.
Yes. Dude, it's hard to find athletic 300-pound man walking the face of the earth. Like, and he's athletic and he's doing the damn thing. So, yes, I would definitely put him in there. The other thing I was going to throw in there, Catch, though, and I know we're going a little bit over an hour, so I know we'll probably start to wrap up soon. When you start talking about the challenge of head, when I started thinking about Spencer Sanders, but then we started thinking about just the whole conversation, Catch, of dual threat quarterbacks. It's a stretch of them that's coming for Texas at this point. Got Spencer Sanders that's coming this week. Then after the bye, Texas will have Kansas State, so we're talking about Adrian Martinez, right, Catch? And then after that, this TCU at home, but we're talking about Max Duggan and how good that guy is. So, I mean, there's a stretch of elite, and Max Duggan may be the best of them all if we're just keeping it a buck.
He's going to New York at this pace, which is...
That dude is freaking legit. He is fast as I don't know what. So, so you're talking about a stretch where, they've had some quarterbacks. Frank Harris is probably the best of the dual threats that they faced, but they're going to have guys who can literally move and stretch this damn field. And it's not something that they practice against a lot when you really thinking about it. That's not what they see. It's Malik Murphy's not a dual threat guy. Hudson Card is to a certain degree. Quinn Ewers is definitely not a dual threat guy. So when
people overstate Hudson's dual threatness, like he can get you a first down on 3rd and 15, but play in and play out defenses aren't scared out of their minds that Hudson Card's going to beat them with their feet, even hurt ankle or no hurt ankle.
Correct. But these guys, the next three, this murderer's roll, and the Kansas quarterback, goodness, him being hurt is probably the biggest benefit for Texas going into that one, because that would have been four straight. So, because he is out for the year, correct?
They're still listing him day to day. I bet that kid plays against Texas, because why not?
Well, it would have been a good month and change for him to recover. So if he plays, that's going to be four. So anyway, we start thinking about what ahead, and I think about Spencer. The Spencer thing will be, why it's going to be huge for Texas. So you want to, have reasons to believe and all these kind of things. If Texas can find a way to get past a legit duel to that quarterback, you feel good knowing, okay, once you come back and go to Kansas State, once you go to TCU, Kansas, that, okay, you can handle it. But you don't want to be in a situation where, man, that was a struggle bus. You're unable to handle it. And now, how do you now this is the new thing. How do you stop a duel to that quarterback? And I think with this team, you want the more confidence that they have in each other, the better it's going to be going forward.
I don't hate PK's approach to the defense this season. He doesn't, as good as Jalen Ford is, he's not a superstar. I don't know that there's like a first-round pick on this defense. Certainly, you'd like to build with an edge player. Cowboys week in and week out can throw Micah Parsons on the field. It's like, okay, well, you're going to scare the other team to death on every play because of your personnel. Texas doesn't really have that.
Yeah.
So it's not perfect, but the scoring defense for this team is top 20 in the country. And for all of I talk about third down percentage a lot. I have all season, and turnovers and these things. The yards don't matter to me. I don't care about. I hate that yardage is the thing that people use to say how a defense ranks.
Yes.
Scoring average is much more important.
Correct.
And if you told me before the season started that Texas was only going to give up 18 points a game, I have them in Dallas.
Yes.
And I'm like, Kwiatkowski's had that for me would represent an incredible season. So there's a lot of nitpicking on Kwiatkowski about how he gets to the point where his defense ranks in the top 20 in scoring defense. If I'm him, look, I can remember him doing an interview 2 months ago where when he was asked about his pass rush, his reply was, "What pass rush?"
I asked him about it. I asked him that question, and that was his response.
Yeah, he literally – the only time that we've had a chance to talk to the defensive coordinator for the University of Texas in the last, 9 months, right? He hadn't spoken since before last season until that interview, correct?
Yeah, he only speaks once a year.
Yeah. So when we spoke to him, he was like waving this flag of, look, guys, my personnel is not elite. So I think he's coached this entire season with the idea of, I have an imperfect unit, but how do we accomplish the goal where we don't allow a bunch of points? You cannot say that his methods haven't created success. Now, they're not great across the board in every single number, but they're pretty great in the one that I think both of us would agree. If you allow 30 points a game, but you lead the country in sacks, I mean, what good are the sacks? You're giving up 2 more touchdowns a game than you like. So the scoring defense really matters. And I want to defend PK because there is a lot of consternation over the third down defense. Why do we give up so many third and longs? Look, and I'm with you on that. 41.4% on third downs this season is really pretty terrible. But what is the bottom line?
Correct.
They've been getting it done. And so I think that his methods we can't nitpick too much because an imperfect defense is really good at the thing that matters the most, despite not being elite at what I think we look at a lot of. Not elite on third downs. They're not elite creating turnovers. They're not elite getting to the quarterback. Yet they're borderline elite and holding teams to not a lot of points. That's, you know what that is? That's making chicken salad out of some chicken scratch.
Facts. That's facts. That's facts. And, it's weird. Like someone, I saw something, I got into one of the threads today, and as I was like in the middle of a press conference, and someone had said something like, I wonder if Onward's going to ask him about the safety rotations. And I'm just like, I mean, you're winning at the and like while you may not enjoy how it's getting done, and like at that point you just got to say, man, I don't love everything about how he runs it, but if he's getting the results at the end of the day, you just got to say, all right, well, I mean, it just is what it is. Like sometimes you go into the kitchen and you look at certain things and you're like, man, are you supposed to add that in? You're supposed to put this ingredients in, and at that point, at some point, you just got to walk out the kitchen and you wait for the final results. And when you get the final results, you say, hey, man, there was a method to this. This was it. I just got to take it how it is.
Real quick, I just want to look this up. And then I got to go like be a good son and do something for my mom. But if we look at the team, Texas is currently 21st in the country in scoring defense. They're giving up 18.29, basically 18.3 points per game. Again,
yes,
I think that's almost worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize. I did not
worthy of a freaking raise.
I did not come into the season telling myself the defense was potentially in a place where that could happen. The Texas offense is averaging 36.7 points per game, which is actually less than I certainly thought. Now, hey, 5 games ago, maybe that thing spikes up a little bit before it's all said and done, but that ranks 26th in the country. Texas defense is doing, I mean, it's a very simplistic way of looking at it. The Texas defense ranks better nationally at giving points away than the Texas offense ranks scoring them.
Correct.
Who in the hell, what were the odds? Seriously, if we were at Vegas and you were like, I got a loose $100 bill in my pocket, I'm going to put it on a long shot bet. What are the odds before the season that the Texas defense would rank better nationally in scoring defense than Texas would rank in scoring offense coming off of a year? Didn't Texas finish like 17th in the country last year in scoring offense?
I don't know that offhand. I don't know offhand. That one I don't know offhand.
I don't know it offhand either. Maybe I'll have to look it up. But the question is this. You could have got 50-1 on that. You'd have found some Texas fan that had given you 50-1 odds on that before the season's over, before the season started. And the season ain't over yet, right? Let's not start loving on each other just yet. But 7 games is a decent sample size, and I think everybody's got to lay off PK a little bit.
18, by the way. 18th.
They were 18th.
Yes.
Sarkeesian's got better weapons this year. He's fallen to 26. Fire Sarkeesian. Isn't that how we do it? Isn't that the way it works?
Overreaction Monday.
Overreaction Monday. Texas is 26th in the scoring offense, and we thought they would be close to the top 10. Fire the OC. Oh, wait. The OC's the head coach? That's problematic. But I just know that anytime there's anything that the defense doesn't do masterfully, people are ready to fire. I got questions yesterday in my buy or sell section where it was like, he needs to be fired. And I'm just like, yeah, absolutely.
Dude, that's talking about damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I think we talked about this all off season, though. The addition of Gary Patterson would always be the shadow that hung over Pete K. And to no matter what he did, if it went well, no one would credit him, and if it went bad, everyone would want him fired. And that's where the poor guy is. Chetch, I have talked to this man 2 times in my life, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad. I'm like, dude, poor guy. You literally, the thing got better. It's still under his watch. He's still got to call plays. Like, he has some input, but he still has to call plays. And it's just like, man, PK sucks. I'm like, man, well, I think maybe it's just that because we just do that thing where we always have to have a coordinator that we don't like, and maybe that's just what Pete K has just fallen into. No matter how good it is, it's just like you got to hate a coordinator. Like that guy's stupid, and it's like, no, well, I mean, at least give him credit for merging.
I think. Look. It's like dating somebody that early in the relationship cheats on you. And then they can go 2 years in a row where they don't cheat on you, but when you say that out loud, it sounds bad. Hey. I don't know why you're getting on me. I haven't cheated on you in like 2 years. Like it sounds horrible when you say it out loud. I think the problem that PK has is a year ago, it felt like for Texas fans that he cheated on them. And so now 7 games isn't enough. Like PK can't just be like, yo, I haven't had a bad season in like 9 months. So I understand where Texas fans are kind of coming from.
They're still ranked 37th in the country, though. But
they've made massive improvement, and it's like when the guy – here's the thing. If someone's cheating on you in a relationship and you don't at least give them credit when they don't a little bit, like say like the cheater makes it through 2 years, like that might not be worth a prize or like a medal, but it's probably worth like an attaboy. Like, hey, thank you for not cheating on me. You know what? If they don't hear that, they don't hear the bare minimum of appreciation. They're going to be like, well, why the hell am I doing this anyway? Like, what's in it for me? I don't even get a thank you. All you do is bring up what happened 2 years ago. I think it's important that Texas fans appreciate Kwiatkowski. Yes. They need to at least be able to say, you're doing a good job with the most important thing that matters. And you don't have to love what he does on third downs. You can think that he doesn't bring the pressure enough. And you can think all of those things. But, hey, Eric Torres, fair enough.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Sure.
All I'm saying is give the guy an attaboy every once in a while. Literally 9 days ago, he pitched the first shutout in the history of the Texas OU series for the Longhorns.
I mean, Eric, you probably bring home the money in the household. I'm sure you would like to get a thank you every once in a while. Hey, thanks for the trip. It should be, well, you make so much money, so why should I even thank you? Like at some point, you still got to say, hey, man, good job. That's it. No one's saying, throw rose petals, but to say, hey, good job, especially when you bash someone. Not saying you did, but collectively, he's been bashed enough to.
It feels like if Eric goes home and it's like you haven't done enough chores around the house, you're not, And Eric's like, look, I'm working. I work 70 hours a week. I do that, Like correct. I'm sorry I didn't take the trash out, but like literally, I was at the office every day last week till 9:00. Like just give me a hug and tell me that you love me. It's all we're saying that Kwiatkowski deserves is a hug. That's it. No trophies, no extensions or raises, just a metaphorical hug. All right, look, Anwar and I've been doing this now for like 80 minutes. We do have to move on. He's got to go get some quotes and see if anybody says anything interesting today.
It's all done.
It's all
They're all
done.
done.
Whatever. Anwar's got to get home because his kids get out of school at like
2:30.
3 o'clock, 2:30.
2:30. No, 2:30. They're making it earlier now.
Oh God,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because my kids get out at 3:10. So
no.
Believe me, I appreciate that extra 40 minutes.
It's who you telling? I gotta head. I gotta hope there's not a backup, or I got kids standing outside waiting for dad.
Thank you, everybody involved in the Eric. You were great today in the super chats and just in general. You always are. Thanks to our guys over at rogueshop.com. I can't stress it enough. Just go to the website. It's a fun way to spend 5 or 10 minutes just to look at all of the stuff that can be made with CBD and THC and all of the goodies that exist. You'll chuckle, if nothing else, if you get tempted, and you should, because there's so many ways that the Rogue Shop can help you feel better and make your life better. Make sure you use the promo code Orangebloods and let them make your life a little bit better. Trust me, the Rogue Shop makes Anwar and I's lives a little bit better. Last week, my mom had a chest. I don't know if it was like bronchitis or something like that. But she was out on her feet for like a week and a half. She couldn't smoke. Here come the gummies. And the little thing of like, I was able to sleep well last night. I couldn't take a toke that usually helps me sleep, but I was able to use some of the Rogue Shop gummies. Is the difference between your day being just okay and potentially really good. Like, I love a good night's sleep, and Rogue Shop helps me with that. So like, I can't speak highly enough of them. But look, leave your comments in the comments section like you already have. Like the video. I haven't said it yet today. Like. Thumbs up button, thumbs up button, thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Do all those things. Tell your family about us. And until tomorrow, we'll have more content here on the Orangebloods Texas Football Channel. You guys have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the hell out of this 3-game winning streak. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.